Hello, my name is Ankita Saxena and I am doing my Ph.D. on post-revolution Iran's popular culture, a Persian Rhapsody. So, popular culture is described by is not really described by people in various books and literature that I have read so far. People have a certain definition of culture according to how you eat, what you wear, how your lifestyle is, or it is described and influenced by your forefathers or your religion or your lifestyle, and somehow we try to merge popular culture with culture. However, popular culture and culture are very two different things. I would further describe what popular culture is because as John Story, who is one of the finest authors of culture and popular culture, has given a very simple description of popular culture, that it is a commercial culture where something is mass produced for mass consumption by a mass of people, non-discriminating individuals who would consume anything that is packaged beautifully and given to them, irrespective of whether they require it, need it, or it is just something they want. And it is influenced by and large by the elite, by the dominant culture, by a dominant power or a country to control the minds of a less elite class or a less powerful class. In that way, you would see around the world the culture, all the popular culture of the world and the countries around the world is controlled by America and other powerful countries, more so like China. In the current era, you can say that South Korea and Japan, UK, France have all influenced the popular culture of the world. Now, why I have taken popular culture of Iran is because as much as we wish, we really do not know things about our neighbors. Iran has a very, very rich ancient culture of culinary, of food, of lifestyle habits, everything in language, literature, poetry, everything that we know of in our own culture is influenced by Persian culture a bit, it is influenced by Arabic culture a bit, it is influenced by America and different cultures around the world. But even when the language that we speak or the clothes that we wear are somehow an amalgamation of cultures from around the world, and Iran is one of them. And India and Iran have a very deep-rooted history connection or cultural connection. Iran in particular is a culture of complexities. It is a culture of dissent, deliberation, and agitation. At the same time, when you talk about Iran, you always think about the political turmoil, all the sanctions, and people might think that it is a country with no future. However, it is one of the youngest countries in the world with a population of 70 million, and 25 million of them are young, and this is called the youth bulge in Iran that caters to everything that Iran does, policies, lifestyle, the decisions that the government makes. It is subjected to those 25 million because they are the future of the country. Iran has a unique culture, like I said. In my thesis, I have described the popular culture of Iran in three different parts. One is the visual culture, like through social media, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and various other means on media that you see, the news channels, television, films. What you see is your visual culture of Iran. And the second is the women. Now, women in Iran are extremely important part of the society. They have been responsible for massive socio-political changes in the country, and they have been participant of the 1979 revolution, and they have still a great, great participant of the country's current developments pertaining to women and child. And the third area that I am talking about is the American influence on Iranian popular culture, because as we all know that Iran and America have a very tumultuous relationship. Having said that, America still influences Iran's popular culture, and that is not just politically, it is also socially. So the first one I'm talking about, I'm going to talk about the visual culture of Iran. That is through media and television. I would like to just throw light upon the various movements in the past that have happened in Iran that are extremely important for modern students of culture, and one of them is this Instagram movements that have happened in Iran. Women have taken upon themselves the responsibility to put across a message to the regime in Iran that women have the right to veil and unveil according to their choice. When the 1979 revolution started, women had an issue with the Reza government, the Shah government, that they should be allowed to choose if they want to veil and should be allowed to decide what they want to wear. There was a magazine that the Shah government used to run during those times that was called Alam-e-Zanan. The entire magazine was filled with these columns of grooming tips about women, how to dress like Europeans, how to be like them, how to wear clothes like them, and all these pictures of women unveiling and not wearing, carrying a hijab or not wearing a proper, like the clothes that a typical Iranian would wear, like a manto or anything. None of that was available in those pictures. They were just westernized women, but they were Iranian. Women took upon that particular trend and turned it around and started asking questions that shouldn't you be allowed to choose what makes you comfortable and what you want to wear. The post-1979 revolution, what happened is kind of a betrayal in the sense for the women, that now from being forced to unveil during the Shah government, they were being forced to veil post the revolution, and these women took upon social media like Instagram and started posting videos of themselves without a veil, started posting videos of themselves dancing, and they started putting up these hashtags like my stealthy freedom, dancing is not a crime, and all those kind of videos. Most of these women, however, were foreign residents, did not live in Iran, so obviously they could avoid being arrested. But even if they were in Iran, they were obviously very vulnerable to be arrested. One of them is the case of Seher Tabar. She got arrested for her makeup and her outer appearance because as the government described it, corrupting the youth, a practice that she was spreading to corrupt the youth. Although she just had some makeup done on her face that made her look like a zombie version of Angelina Jolie, this did not go down well with the government. So these women have tried, through these social media platforms to make a point that they have the right to dress the way they want. Now, in social media, there are Twitter trends, there are films, there are television and ad campaigns that people have started to dissent. Dissent is not really common in Iran because if whatever commercial content that goes on social media is regulated by the Ministry of Culture and Islamic guidance. If you do not go through that, you're not even allowed to perform on stage. Hence, you would see the underground basements of Tehran are filled with these little shops and these little tattoo artists and have their shops opened over there. You will find rock bands, you will find painters and murals and paintings and wall graffitis over there. Some of this material is not approved by the Ministry of Culture and Islamic guidance, and that is why it is done in a very hushed manner that the government doesn't know about it. So at the same time, you would see the entire culture where people have started using, satellite is not available in Iran, so they have these dish TVs, and through that they have got access to BBC, Bloomberg television, CNN, and all kind of international shows and news channels. They are connected with the rest of the world, so you cannot really keep an Iranian devoid of knowledge of what is happening around the world. A trend that is happening around the world is going to affect a youth sitting in somewhere in a corner in Tehran or any other part of the country. So when you would see that the amount of foreign material an average Iranian consumes, they are very much aware of what is happening with them and what is required for them to make that difference. So they start, one would see the emergence of filmmakers like Abbas Kiarostami, Majid Majidi, Mohsen Makmalbaf, his daughter Samira Makmalbaf. In the old days there was Danish Mejri and his film The Lodgers that criticized the government and the administration. These, although Danish Mejri is now is in exile, Mohsen Makmalbaf is in France. He also went for an exile. Most of these filmmakers who want to criticize the government do not live in Iran. They choose to go to an exile because if they stay, they are vulnerable for arrest. Their house arrest as well. Like Abbas Kiarostami was under house arrest. Now he's no more. But when he was alive, he could not really have one of his movies released without any issue by the Ministry of Culture and Islamic guidance, although Abbas Kiarostami before Asghar Farhadi was one of the biggest representatives of Iranian culture worldwide. Then he was not recognized, and now because he is a very famous filmmaker and extremely awarded at the Cannes Film Festival, he is recognized by the government. But while he was alive, he had to struggle to be recognized. And now today you have a Mohsen Makmalbaf and you have Asghar Farhadi. Two of his films, The Salesman and A Separation, won the Oscar, becoming the first Middle Eastern or West Asian films to ever win an Oscar. And this is a massive victory because it really, these films were, from an Iranian, by an Iranian, and shot in Iran. And these films talked about, had an underlining theme of women, had an underlining theme of struggle, had an underlining theme of dissent. So sometimes you have to really commercialize those struggles to make a movie and just get done with it. So you avoid the censor in Iran. And then you have actresses like so many of them who have been to international platforms and have landed themselves in trouble for wearing a lipstick perhaps, or the veil being too short, but they continue to exist and thrive. Now we talk about the women of Iran. As we have discussed before, the women are extremely powerful components of the culture and of popular culture, especially in Iran. The women started the movement in Iran in 1991 to be allowed to enter a football stadium. This was when the Iranian football team won a quarter match for a qualifier match for the Football World Cup. The team was being facilitated in Iran's Azadi Stadium, and these women were not allowed because the women were not allowed to enter the stadiums and watch a match along with the men. So they thronged to those stadiums and started protesting to be seen, to be noticed, to be allowed. After that, the next year in 1998, women were not the next year, I guess a few years later, the women were allowed to train for all women football team at the Hijab Stadium in Tehran. Now women are allowed to enter the Iranian stadiums and watch a match, which was not allowed earlier. Similarly, there are women activists and filmmakers from time to time who have criticized the government for its strict policies, for its moral policing, and hence they have also landed themselves in trouble. To say the least, women are still making a lot of changes in the government by just existing, and not by existing, and also by criticizing the government in the manner that is acceptable to the people in power. Now the third is, I'm going to talk about the American cultural influence. Now American culture influence has always been there, even from the 18th century, and during the Safavi period as well. There was an influence of international or European culture or American culture that was taking place in Iran, the treaties like the Russo-Iranian Treaty or the Turkmenchai Treaty in 1813 and 1828, when the Iranian government, the Iranian regime wanted to westernize its military capabilities and took the help of the Russians and several other powers of the world. Then came the the Reza government, and you would see the massive influence of American culture that he wanted to really, he wanted to make his masters really happy sitting in America by recommending every Iranian to dress up the way an American does, or behave like a westernized person. But this obviously backfired for after the when the revolution happened. And now also especially after postmodernism of the 20th century, when the American culture itself evolved into these Elvis Presley and Madonna and Fred Astaire's, all that culture that influenced the rest of the world, the hip hop culture, the rap music culture, it influenced an average Iranian as well. An average Iranian woman is okay with live-in relationship. An average Iranian woman is okay with premarital sex. And an average Iranian is okay with tattoo, is okay with hip hop. But it's just not really possible for them to be expressing themselves so openly. You would see women in Iran reducing the length of the hijab, making it smaller and smaller into a headscarf, or making into a designer, whatever they want it to be. And sometimes it is called a sexual revolution, sometimes it is called a teasing revolution, where they intentionally slip off the hijab in a public place where they are not allowed to, and they quickly cover it. So these are little ways they're trying to make trying to be heard, trying to be seen. And the American culture of music, especially when a very popular music video was released in America, that was Pharrell Williams' Happy, which described his happiness of being who he is, a black American living in America, and how he's thankful for whatever he has achieved so far in his life. People around the world made similar videos, and so did Iranians. They had a video called Happy in Tehran. A number of people, men, women and children, made that video to tell the world that Iranians are not the other. They sometimes are just they are seen as people who also do this. Like an Iranian can also do this because the rest of the world is doing this. Iranians through those videos and films wanted to try to tell the world that they are not okay with the identity of the other, the identity of being called different. It is okay for them to be unique, but not being called something that that is alien definition of their existence. So when I'm what I have discussed in my thesis is not just the culture of Iran, but also the spirit, a spirit in which they have rejected the hegemony power of the world. They have rejected the tags that they have been given, and they continue to be a culture of complexities, a culture of numerous contradictions, a culture of dissent and rage, and also a culture that is extremely patriotic. It is more Persian, it is more unique, and it is something that you would see every Iranian is extremely proud of the culture. It also comes from this fact of always fighting the world on its own. So that is what I have discussed in my entire thesis. I have discussed more in detail. Also, I have done my M.Phil on films of Iran. So there is everything that is discussed in this work. So I hope that anyone who heard this video has also got a little idea of what Iranian culture is all about. So thank you so much.